After 8 weeks, countless miles and hours of research and chatting with coaches and players across the state of Montana, the MT Top 40 concludes with a look at the best quarterbacks in Treasure State history. In fact, the #1 QBs on the MT Top 40 will soon be the only Montana athletes that are enshrined in the College Football Hall of Fame. William Wild Bill Kelly got his enshrinement back in 1969, and later on this year, Dave Dickinson, Great Falls CMR, will also join him right there. The #1 QBs from Missoula County and Great Falls CMR.
He was a different breed of cat than anybody I've ever seen.
Listed at 5'11", which was a generous mark according to his coaches, and weighing less than 175 pounds, Dave Dickinson didn't look the part of a football player, but exceptional knowledge of the game and the drive to win would help him become the greatest quarterback Montana has ever seen. He, of course, had a magical prep career at Great Falls CMR, 23-0 as a starter, winning Class AA state championships in 1989 and 1990, each of those against rival Great Falls High. Rustlers beating the Bison 16-12 in that first title bout, 38-7 during Dickinson's senior year.
I thought we had as good a team as Russell did, but Dave was the key that won the game for him. He could change the play, he could do stuff, and he was really heady in the game of football. Maybe the smartest kid I've ever seen. Photographic memory or whatever, he was tuned in all the time, and Dave was Dave. He is, it's all upstairs with him. He is smart.
He lived a block from where we lived, so Kelly and Mark, they were friends, and so we knew Dave and watched him grow up. And I knew when watched him as a third grader that he was going to be a quarterback. He just, and watched him play hockey. He played every sport: hockey, football, baseball, basketball, bowling, heck of a bowler, tennis player. Just a natural. But Dave, more than anything else, he had the ability to inspire people. You know, he made everybody around him better just because of his presence. And obviously a great athlete on top of that too.
Dave Dickinson totaled 84 touchdowns as the starting quarterback, 61 passing, 23 rushing, and was named Montana's Gatorade Player of the Year, First Team All-State, and the Offensive MVP, as well as High School All-American. Dickinson's number 15 jersey retired at Great Falls CMR, the only player with that honor. He finished his prep career with 5,104 passing yards, according to the Montana High School Association, 2,892 of those coming in the 1990 season. His 64% completion percentage, number 3 all-time, according to the MHSA, and his 3,331 total offensive yards from his senior year are ranked 10th. Dickinson was also an all-state golfer and 2-year starter on the Rustlers basketball team.
The thing, and I don't think I taught him any of these things, or we didn't, but he had the ability to know who to throw it to and when to throw it, when to get it out of his hand, and he was very accurate. You know, he didn't have the strongest arm in the world, but that's some of the most important things. He knew who neck to throw it to, and he got it out of his hand, and he was accurate. He didn't miss many throws, and very competitive, very competitive. I don't care what he was doing. I mean, he was a winner. You know, he was just special.
He's a guy that I thought got more out of his physical abilities than just about anybody, you know, because he wasn't that tall and he wasn't that fast, but he just had the intelligence and the you know, that kind of that sixth sense of where to go and when to go there, and he definitely made the most out of the abilities that he had.
Dickinson chose to walk on at the University of Montana, redshirting his first season in Missoula. He would become the starter his sophomore year, leading the Grizzlies to the 1993 Division I AA playoffs. His junior and senior seasons, 2 of the best in history.
He was so special. You know, obviously he didn't have the physical, statistical measurements that everybody looks at as being able to play at a level that he played with. He was so much smarter.
In 1994, Dickinson completed 272 of 392 passes. That was good for 3,550 yards and 27 touchdowns, averaging more than 320 yards per game. He also rushed for 3 scores. He would again guide the Grizz to the national playoffs, but suffered an ankle injury and did not play in a semifinal game against Youngstown State. That was a 28-9 UM defeat. Dickinson, though, rewrote the Grizz, Big Sky Conference, and FCS record books his senior season in 1995. He set a then program record 558 passing yards in a win at the University of Idaho. That included 43 completions, a UM record that stood until Brady Gustafson's 47 against Cal Poly in 2016.
Don Reed over there told me Dave Dickinson watched less film than any quarterback he had ever coached. He just had an God-given ability to know who to throw it to, and he didn't watch much film. And he was always late for meetings.
We'd have our coaches' meetings, and then we'd, bring the kids in, and as we pared down the game plan, David would come in and we'd look at film, and he'd say, okay, what do you like? What don't you like? Well, I don't like this. I don't like this. I like this. I like this. I like this. And it was almost exactly what, we had on paper to begin with. And he just had that, it factor that, and I mean, it was there from the first day he stepped on campus.
Dickinson added a 90-yard touchdown pass against Boise State. That was also a program record at the time. One of his 6 scoring touchdowns in the game, and he was also responsible for 41 offensive touchdowns in the 95 season. Dave Dickinson, all in all, 431 of 624 with 51 touchdowns and 5,676 yards in 1995 with his 379.6 passing yards per game, a Big Sky Conference record. Montana would defeat Marshall 22-20 in the 1995 National Championship game, with Dickinson throwing for 281 yards and 2 touchdowns, earning the Walter Payton Award as the best 1AA player in the entire nation.
Don Reed told me one time when we had the walkthrough for the national championship, Davey wasn't there. He was up because he was going to be pre-med studying that stuff right there. And I said, wow. He said, he knew all that. That's the last thing I worried about going in the game. And he said he put his books away and came out and won the game for us.
Kind of funny story about Dickie. Come about his senior year, he had a girlfriend. He was really good going to class, I think, all through his college career. Except I think the girlfriend kind of put a little bit of a, made going to some classes a little bit more difficult than it used to be. Well, anyway, him and Kempfert were taking an organic chemistry class. Kempfert was very studious and very sincere and very dedicated toward everything that he did, including going to school. Well, David would go take the notes, and David Dickinson would not go very often, but he'd always call Kempfert to get his notes the night before the test. And every test that they took, Dickie would get a 98 and Kempfert would get a 92 or a 94.
He was thrice All-Conference, League MVP, and All-American, and Dave Dickinson's name can be found 68 times in the University of Montana's football record book. His 11,080 passing yards are atop the program's career list. Also, his 166.3 passing efficiency, third in FCS history, and the 9.2 yards per attempt were a national record. Dickinson also finished his career with 7.9% of his completed passes ending in touchdowns. That was also an FCS national record. Dave Dickinson also an academic All-American, and the Big Sky Conference tabbed him the #1 athlete in the first 50 years of the league.
I think he single-handedly forced people in the Big Sky Conference to look at who they recruited. And the one thing I'll say, at the University of Montana, from the time that I was there until the time I left, we didn't start a quarterback that was not an undefeated state champion quarterback in high school, because there's some carryover there. And I don't think David lost a game his last 2 years. But I think that forced guys like Eastern Washington to say, hey, we don't need that big, huge dude at quarterback throwing the football. We need a guy that's got some mobility. We need a guy that's smart. But yeah, he was He was a different dude, man.
The Calgary Stampeders brought Dickinson to the Canadian Football League, where he would compete from 1997 to 2000 as the CFL's MVP in 2000, 4,636 passing yards and 36 touchdowns, 5 more rushing touchdowns as the Stampeders were 12-5-1. Next 2 years were spent in the NFL, San Diego Chargers in 2001, stops in Seattle, Miami, and Detroit in 2002, before he returned to the CFL with the British Columbia Lions and set league records. Highest completion percentage, that was 74%, and the best quarterback rating, 118.8 in the 2005 season. He netted an MVP honor in the 2006 Grey Cup, a 25-14 win, and would retire from playing after the 2008 season. Dickinson remained in football, though, joining the Stampeders as a running backs coach in 2009, taking over the quarterbacks the following season, and then serving as Calgary's offensive coordinator from 2011 to 2015. He's been the program's head coach since 2016 with a CFL record 28 wins in the first 2 seasons. Calgary also has appeared in the past 2 Grey Cups. Dickinson, your coach of the year, his rookie coaching season in 2016.
David Dickinson is a great head coach because he understands the game. David Dickinson would have been as good a defensive coordinator as he was an offensive coordinator because he was so smart.
You love to see those type of guys be successful. They're actually the guys that you love to coach. I mean, a lot of times a lot of coaches will say, well, I wish we had like 10 of him or whatever, you know, and that's just the kind of guy he was. You take a whole squad full of those guys because, you know, they just want to win and they're going to do whatever it takes to get it done.
Dave Dickinson is a member of the Great Falls CMR, Montana High School Association, Grizzly Sports, Montana Football, and Canadian Football League Halls of Fame. He will be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in December.
No, I'm not surprised by any of it. I mean, that was just Dave. You know, he was just a winner from the time he was little till now. You know, he's just a special person.
William Kelly, better known as Wild Bill, became a football legend in Missoula in the 1920s. 2-time All-State quarterback at Missoula County High, Kelly would lead the program to its first state football championship, a simple 3-0 win over Great Falls in 1921. He was also a member of the Spartans' 1922 state basketball championship. According to the nomination letter to the Montana Football Hall of Fame, Bill Kelly was set to attend Notre Dame but convinced to stay in Missoula and play at the University of Montana, where he would letter in football, basketball, and baseball from 1924 to 1926. He was 2-0 on the football field against the rival Montana State Bobcats, scored 4 touchdowns in a 29-7 victory in 1925. Following year, he would throw for a score, rush for another, return a punt for 1 more touchdown, and he also had 3 interceptions on defense. Kelly still holds the UM record for longest run from scrimmage. That was 88 yards against Carroll College in 1925. The same season, he would earn Walter Camp All-American and All-Pacific Coast Conference honors. He also scored 26 points alone against Whitman in a 1926 contest. That's tied for number 2 in UM's single-game history, according to the Grizz record book. Per the Montana Football Hall of Fame, Kelly was an all-conference selection twice and was invited to the East-West Shrine Game in 1927, where his 80-yard touchdown pass was the winning score. He also intercepted a pass in that contest, and in 1971 was named the all-time quarterback in Shrine Game history. On October 14, 1927, Kelly was listed as the starting quarterback for the New York Yankees, scoring 2 touchdowns in a 19-8 win over the Buffalo Bisons. He spent 4 seasons on the pro football fields with the Yankees, Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, and Brooklyn Dodgers. Bill Kelly died in November of 1931, reportedly collapsing while attending a football game in New York. He was 26. William Bill Kelly was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1969, the Grizzly Sports Hall of Fame in 1993, and the Montana Football Hall of Fame in 2017. So there you go, start to finish, the defensive backs all the way up to the quarterbacks, the top 2 soon to be enshrined as Montana's only members of the College Football Hall of Fame. Dave Dickinson heads that way later this year. Your honorable mention quarterbacks, you can find more about them, montanasports.com, and of course, hashtag MTTop40 if you missed anybody on the countdown. Richie Melby, MTN Sports.